With no unity in the house, no one noticed as she slowly gained more influence, until it was too late. Welcome to The Hidden Voice, the home of African Folktales channel. In the heart of the bustling city of Freetown stood a grand building known to all as Kabba and Sons Enterprises. It was a towering symbol of success, wealth, and the legacy of one man, Mr. Thomas Kabba, a self-made billionaire known for his discipline, sharp business sense, and deep love for his family. Mr. Kabba had built his company from the ground up with the help of his loyal wife, Madame Felicia, and their 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. The business was thriving, and the family was admired by many. But as the years rolled on, Mr. Kabba began to step back from active leadership, preparing to hand over the reins to his children. Then came Lucinda, a tall, elegant woman in her late 20s with skin like polished ebony, eyes that shimmered like gold in the sun, and a voice soft as silk. She was hired as Mr. Kabba's personal secretary after an impressive interview where she demonstrated unmatched efficiency, charm, and grace. But beneath her polished exterior lay a secret. Lucinda was no ordinary woman. She was deeply involved in dark magic, a legacy passed to her from her late grandmother, a feared witch from the hinterlands of Bombali. Lucinda had come to Makini not just in search of work, but in search of power and ways to overtake what her spells can do through her invoking sprites. At first, Lucinda played her role well, modest, respectful, efficient. She served coffee, arranged meetings, managed the boss's calendar, and slowly began to learn everything about the company and the family. She paid close attention to the boss's habits, his likes, dislikes, and even the small cracks in his marriage. She listened, smiled, and observed. Before Lucinda ever stepped into the company, Mariana, the only daughter of Mr. Kabba and Madame Felicia, was already at the center of growing tension within the family. As the company expanded, Mr. Kabba had started grooming his eldest son, Ibrahim, to take over. Mariana, however, had always been sharp, business-minded, and loyal. She believed that leadership should be based on merit, not gender or tradition, and she had proven herself time and time again. She was often the one catching accounting errors, improving logistics, and negotiating big contracts. But her assertiveness clashed with her brothers, especially Ibrahim, who felt she was overstepping. Arguments became frequent. Madame Felicia, while proud of her daughter, advised her to let the men lead, adding fuel to Mariana's frustration. Mr. Kabba, caught between old customs and modern thinking, became distant. He began to withdraw from family decisions, hoping the conflict would sort itself out. This silence created a vacuum, a house divided, full of unspoken resentment and mistrust. When Lucinda arrived, she noticed this division immediately. She saw that Mariana barely spoke to her brothers. She saw how Madame Felicia silently disapproved of her daughter's ambition. And she saw how Mr. Kabba, now in his late 60s, was emotionally detached from all of it. As the years passed, Mr. Kabba and Madame Felicia's marriage changed. Once filled with passion and shared dreams, their relationship had quietly slipped into a routine of duty and distance. Madame Felicia, now focused on church work and grandchildren, had grown more emotionally and physically unavailable. She was often tired, occupied with family matters, or traveling for religious retreats. What began as occasional rejection turned into months of intimacy lost. Mr. Kabba, a proud but aging man, never voiced his need for closeness. Out of respect, and perhaps pride, he kept quiet. But deep down, he felt neglected, undesired, and even invisible. At the office, Lucinda entered like a breeze in dry season. Her voice was soft. Her perfume lingered. She smiled warmly and leaned in when speaking. She listened when he spoke, really listened. She complimented his suits, laughed at his dry jokes, and even remembered small things, his favorite tea, the brand of his cologne, the scar on his hand from youth. At first, he brushed it off, but over time, her attention filled the void that had grown in his heart and bed. When she brought coffee, he watched her walk away. When she arranged files, he admired her fingers. and when she touched his shoulder during meetings, a current ran through him that reminded him he was still a man. Lucinda knew exactly what she was doing. Her skirts got shorter, her shirts tighter. She accidentally stayed late. She made herself available at all hours. She gave him what he had not felt in years, not just flirtation, but the illusion of being desired, powerful, and young again. It wasn't long before Mr. Kabba began comparing her to his wife. She listens to me. She respects me. She makes me feel like I matter. That hunger for affection, long starved, became the open door through which Lucinda's charm, and eventually her dark magic, entered. Lucinda also sympathized with Mariana privately, telling her she admired her courage. Then she'd turn around and charm the sons, pretending to support their leadership. She gained everyone's trust individually, then began planting seeds of doubt. "Your father doesn't believe in you anymore," she whispered to Mariana. "Your sister is planning to take the company for herself," she told Ibrahim. "Your children are pulling away from you," she told Madame Felicia. In the confusion, Lucinda positioned herself as the only one everyone trusted, the neutral, helpful hand. With no unity in the house, no one noticed as she slowly gained more influence until it was too late. Lucinda had developed a deep obsession with Mr. Kabba. His wealth, his authority, his aura, it all drew her in. But she knew that to possess him and everything he owned, she would have to do more than seduce. She would need to control his mind, heart, and soul. One rainy Thursday night, Lucinda traveled to a dark forest near Waterloo. There, at an old shrine built with black stones and twisted wood, she summoned spirits of the underworld. With animal blood, sacred chants, and cursed herbs, she called upon forces to bind Mr. Kabba to her. She offered the spirits a promise. If they helped her win him, she would dedicate her soul to their service forever. The next morning, Mr. Kabba arrived at work like a man under a trance. As Lucinda passed by, he followed her with his eyes. Her perfume, laced with potion, made him dizzy. Her voice sounded sweeter than usual. That day, he promoted her to executive assistant. The staff whispered, but no one dared speak up. As weeks passed, Lucinda's influence over Mr. Kabba deepened. He began ignoring his children's opinions and making strange decisions. He called Lucinda to his house for late-night meetings and started spending more time with her than with his wife. But Lucinda wasn't satisfied with just Mr. Kabba. She wanted everything: the company, the house, and even the loyalty of the family. To do that, she visited a hidden sorcerer in Goderic, who prepared a powerful charm. With it, she enchanted Madame Felicia and the children. The spell caused them to see Lucinda as a kind, helpful woman who always acted in their best interest. Felicia began confiding in her, even asking for advice. The sons trusted her business instincts. The daughter called her Auntie Lucy. Mr. Kabba eventually divorced Madame Felicia under Lucinda's influence and married Lucinda in a secret court wedding. Soon after, he legally transferred 60% of the company shares to her and began rewriting his will. No one questioned it. After all, the entire family adored her, or so it seemed. Aminata, the wife of Mr. Kabba's eldest son, was a deeply spiritual woman. A quiet force, she spent her mornings in prayer and her nights reading psalms. She had always been suspicious of Lucinda. Something in her spirit told her that the woman carried darkness. One night, Aminata had a vivid dream. She saw Lucinda in the form of a black serpent coiled around the family, tightening slowly, while the children smiled blindly. She awoke with a scream and fell into deep prayer. For days she fasted, asking God to reveal the truth. Soon, strange things began to happen. One morning, Mr. Kabba collapsed in the office and mumbled strange words in his sleep. On another day, the youngest daughter started hallucinating, claiming she saw shadows following Lucinda. With the help of a local pastor known for deliverance, she began spiritual warfare. They prayed around the house, anointed the office with oil, and secretly removed Lucinda's charms buried under the chief executive chair. The pastor exposed the symbols etched behind photo frames, under carpets, and even in Madame Felicia's old wardrobe. When Lucinda realized the spell was breaking, she grew violent. She tried to attack Aminata during a family meeting, shouting things in tongues no one understood. But the pastor was there and began to pray aloud, calling on fire to expose evil. Lucinda screamed, her eyes rolling back, and fell to the floor. Her true form, a dark-skinned woman with serpent eyes and a long, snake-like tongue, was revealed to all. Mr. Kabba wept in shock, his mind returning slowly. In a crowd of horrified family members and staff, Lucinda confessed everything. She told them about the shrine in Waterloo, the dark spells, the enchanted food, and how she controlled their minds. Her voice cracked with regret, but it was too late. The court annulled her marriage to Mr. Kabba. The company revoked her shares. She was stripped of every privilege, every property, every title. Lucinda became a pariah. Months passed, and one rainy day, the former enchantress was seen begging for food on the streets of Lumley, her once polished hair now tangled, her elegant clothes turned to rags. When people passed her by, she whispered to herself, "It should have been mine. It was supposed to be mine." Mr. Kabba later reunited with Madame Felicia and began rebuilding the bonds in his family. Aminata was honored by all, and the company flourished again, this time with spiritual covering and wisdom. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoy the story and want to hear more amazing African folktales, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like to the channel. Your support helps keep these stories alive and bring our rich culture to the world. Until next time, stay inspired and keep the stories flowing.